From being too old and leaving behind his prime to just not performing well enough. Why the heck did the UFC fire Yoel Romero? Yoel Romero, a consistent top contender in the UFC's middleweight division, was part of the UFC's planned year-end cuts. He competed in a title fight against Israel Adesanya in early 2020, but it all went downhill after that. UFC President Dana White revealed plans to release around 60 fighters by the year's end. White mentioned that the roster was overfilled and they aim to make significant cuts before the new year. He highlighted that many fighters' names would likely be let go in the upcoming weeks, and unfortunately for Yoel, his name made the cut. As a former Olympic silver medalist, Romero faced defeat twice in his attempts to win the 185-pound belt. Following his loss to Adesanya at the age of 43, Romero seemed to be at a pivotal point in his career. Despite the setbacks, there was no apparent signs of decline in his performance. In his bout against champion Adesanya, Yoel Romero played it safe by not taking the lead. In the end, the fight turned into a matchup between two counter-strikers, resulting in a mostly uneventful contest where the champion secured victory based on points. However, that wasn't exactly why he was left behind by Dana. Yoel's downfall, UFC in 2020, stemmed from a mix of factors. His recent performance showed a record of 1 win and 4 losses in his last 5 UFC fights, notably 4 losses in title bouts. On top of that, Yoel Romero encountered weight issues for 2 out of 3 title fights. Despite his readiness to transition to the 205-pound division, there was a disagreement between UFC officials and Romero's team regarding his next opponent. This disagreement led to the UFC deciding to release Romero from his contract, according to his statement. Although he was known for his thrilling style, his victories often lacked dominance. At 44 years old, Romero was approaching the end of his athletic prime, prompting the UFC's emphasis on younger fighters with potential for longer careers. During a phase of roster reduction, the UFC intended to cut approximately 60 fighters, and Yoel Romero, with his high salary and recent performance, was seen as a possible candidate for release. It was reported that Romero wasn't enthusiastic about accepting certain UFC matchups, such as Uriah Hall and Derek Brunson, and that was a problem. The thing is, UFC tends to favor fighters who are open to facing a variety of opponents to create entertaining fights. Romero's fights, while thrilling, occasionally lacked fast-paced action, impacting pay-per-view sales and TV ratings. And since the UFC values fighters who consistently engage and captivate fans, there was no point of keeping him around. Despite Romero's status as a top contender, he hadn't secured a title shot in 2 years. UFC President Dana White's stance on Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero seemed surprised at his release from the UFC, especially because he was gearing up for a final title shot. He had been training intensely and was considering fights in the 185 or 205-pound divisions, aiming for matchups with the top-ranked contenders. As we mentioned, Romero's management had discussed potential fights with Uriah Hall or Derek Brunson with the UFC, but the release came unexpectedly to him. He argued that he believed it wasn't the right move for him to face these younger opponents. His focus was on pursuing the world title. The training and preparation were geared towards a path of 1 or 2 fights leading to a title shot. Fighting these lower-ranked opponents felt like a step backward rather than progressing toward his goal. The UFC proposed a fight against Johnny Walker at 205 pounds. Initially, managers aimed for matchups with Dominic Reyes, Glover Teixeira, Thiago Santos, or Anthony Smith. There was some back and forth in discussions, then silence from the UFC. When they eventually responded, they mentioned they couldn't reach an agreement and decided to go ahead with the release. The UFC might have hesitated to give Yoel Romero significant fights because his last 2 title bouts didn't generate the excitement Dana White hoped for. Yet, at this stage of Romero's career, it wouldn't be fitting for him to become the division's established gatekeeper either. Currently, Yoel Romero competes for the light heavyweight title in Bellator. There were reports suggesting his first fight in the promotion might be against another former UFC fighter, Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. But the bout was pulled from the card because of an eye issue from Yoel's end. Upon learning about the end of his 13-fight tenure with the UFC, Yoel Romero, a veteran of the promotion, turned to his faith, believing it was part of a larger plan. Romero's side of the story. The 44-year-old Cuban expressed acceptance, acknowledging that everything in life has a beginning and an end. He reflected on his UFC journey, recognizing that transitions are natural and that one must embrace what comes with gratitude, guided by faith in God's mysterious ways. Entering free agency can be risky for fighters with limited opportunities and the possibility of getting overlooked. Yoel Romero and his team managed the free agency period smoothly, swiftly joining Bellator MMA, considered one of the major promotions in the sport, just under 2 weeks after parting ways with the UFC. Reflecting on his transition to Bellator, Romero expressed confidence in his skills and dedication, stating that he didn't believe he made any mistakes in the UFC. He felt reassured and content with his decision, describing the move to Bellator as finding a home where he felt valued and embraced. Throughout his UFC journey as a middleweight, Yoel Romero decided to start his Bellator stint in the 205-pound light heavyweight division. Like we just talked about, the highly anticipated fight between Yoel Romero and Anthony "Rumble" Johnson stirred immense excitement among fans. However, Bellator disclosed a previously undisclosed issue with Romero's pre-fight medicals, leading to his withdrawal from the matchup. Although disappointed, Romero remained composed, attributing the setback to a part of a higher plan. He expressed readiness for such situations and entrusted the outcome to a higher power, stating that despite the cancellation, he believed it was meant to be. The Bellator light heavyweight division is currently led by Vadim Nemkov, hailed by many as the division's top fighter regardless of promotion. Nemkov is engaged in Bellator's light heavyweight Grand Prix. If Yoel Romero was able to surpass Phil Davis, he would have positioned himself well for a potential title shot against Nemkov when the tournament concluded. But unfortunately for him, he lost the bout via split decision during Bellator 266. Romero recognizes Nemkov as a skilled and versatile fighter. He contemplates dropping back to middleweight to challenge Gegard Mousasi, the division's champion. However, Romero emphasizes that victory holds greater importance than the opponent. He views becoming the Bellator champion as significant as achievements in Olympic wrestling, world championships, or holding a UFC title, underscoring the importance of the Bellator championship. Romero's fights in Bellator, including his upcoming bout against Davis, will be broadcasted on Showtime. Showtime, known for its rich history in combat sports, recently ventured into celebrity boxing, organizing matches featuring YouTube personalities like Jake and Logan Paul. While Romero is intrigued by boxing possibilities, he isn't counting on facing the Paul brothers, despite the potential financial rewards such fights could offer. Shortly after leaving the UFC, Yoel Romero's managers and the Paul brothers' representatives discussed a potential fight. However, the Pauls decided they preferred to fight Ben Askren instead. Despite this, Romero has numerous enticing options ahead, spanning across weight divisions. At 44, he feels he has an abundance of choices for the rest of his career and isn't planning to slow down. Romero even aims to surpass the legacy of Bernard Hopkins, a former two-division boxing champion who fought competitively into his 50s, as inspiration for his career longevity. Yoel Romero sees his upcoming fights as a significant moment shaping his future, whether it's vying for Bellator titles or potential boxing opportunities. He's optimistic about winning, but trusts in a higher power. Romero anticipates an exciting fight that will captivate fans and hopes for a victorious outcome, leaving it in the hands of destiny. Ultimately, the UFC's decision was likely a multifaceted one, balancing performance, business needs, and entertainment factors. While Romero remains a talented fighter, the UFC chose to prioritize other athletes at that time. It's important to note that opinions on the rationale behind Romero's release differ. Some people believe the UFC should have kept him based on his experience and exciting style. Others feel the decision was justified, given his recent record and age. But the question is, do you think Yoel has a future in combat sports? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this.